Okay, good afternoon to everyone. My name is Jussi-Pekka Hakkarainen. I'm project manager from the National Library of Finland, and I beg your pardon because my headlines titles are quite impossible always, and if this is too complex, I take the blame. But what I would like to speak today for you is that first of all I will give you a brief overview on the project that is up and running now in Finland. We are digitizing material for linguistic research. I will give you a brief overview on that, and at the end of the presentation I will try to explain or show how we utilized social media within this project. We are implementing this project since 2012, and we are approaching to its end. It's going to terminate at the end of this year. And during this project, we are digitizing books, newspapers in 17 different Uralic languages, which are kindred languages for Finns, or Finnish language. And idea is that linguists would get more material for their needs, and the common man or public would gain an access to this material as well. So this is twofold, target for us. First of all, we need to appease the needs of researchers, and then provide something for the great audience as well. So through this project, the goal is, the main objective is that once we have digitized those language materials, the researchers would gain an access to new corpora that they haven't been able to study before, and also the great audience would benefit out of this. So what we've done during past 2-3 years is that we have digitized around 1,100, 1,200 monographs in 17 different Uralic languages. Also around 100 newspaper titles. Why we did this? In Finland we didn't have this material, but it was located in Russia, in the National Library of Russia. So we pretty much digitized research data from a collection of another library, which was, I think, a big achievement already, that you would manage to get something out from Russia and digitize and publish them in Finland. And we sorted the copyrights and everything in Russia, which was a great thing to do, and now people have access to this material. These are the languages of, what we have in Loop. Raise your hand if you know any of these languages. Me neither. I've seen a couple of them, but I can't really read them all. So this is really niche material for niche research group. Not only located in Finland, but across to Europe anyway. I think in Germany you have a seminar of Fenno-Ugristic, for instance, in Göttingen, so this is data for them as well. And in order to visualize where these languages are spoken, you can see the map. There is Tuscany, your holiday destination. Those red dots are my holiday destinations, so I won't be traveling to Italy. I'm traveling most of my time to Russia, which is exciting. So this gives you an overview where these languages are spoken. So we have excluded, for instance, those bigger Uralic languages like Finnish and Hungarian and Northern Sami out from this, but the basic idea is that the material is in Russia, we want to digitize them and publish and get the data rolling on. What sort of a material we have digitized? After the Great War and Revolution, Bolshevik regime started to support minority languages in Soviet Union. So this was a stage when languages were quite freely developing, and the grammars were made and so forth. So this material Enlightenment literature did challenge the earlier lexical orthographic norms, and it was spread to the public audience in the form of newspapers, for instance. So these languages were made into a popular media now. It wasn't any longer kept by the clergyman or someone who had a position to speak or write in that. So this was kind of a renaissance or period of enlightenment for these languages, up to the 1938 when the terror period began in Soviet Union. We have published the material in online collection, Fenojukriga. That is a typical repository, DSpace repository, where you can browse the collections, periodicals, and monographs and so forth. This is nothing new to you, it's just a typical repository. Since the problem is in our library, in National Library of Finland, that we don't have our own researchers. We are just data providers or doing cultural heritage things. But since we have the connection to Russia, the researchers came to us and asked, can you do something for this? Of course, we can digitize and we can publish them. But then they were asking, can you jump a bit further on? And this was one of the things that we managed to do during this project, that we actually started to cooperate with researchers much more closely. What I'm doing with researchers every Monday at 9 o'clock is that I will buy some cake and I will go to the coffee room and they offer me some coffee and then we discuss. And this is how we started to combine the possibilities in the library and needs of researchers and get them to match at some point. The great problem with all digitized content is the OCR. And if you're lucky enough, you can have good quality OCR in some languages like English, or if it's rather fresh, or even German could be quite good, and even Finnish is rather good. But since we have 17 different languages with orthographies that were used in 30s, and state-of-art programs do not support those languages any longer, we needed to find a way how we can get clean and enhanced data for researchers. So the mistakes in OCRing must be corrected. Therefore, we created this kind of revisor, editor, text editor, where you have on the left-hand side a picture, and on the right-hand side you have the text in XML. In the top banner you have some navigation buttons, and then in the low banner you have virtual keyboard to add characters, for instance, that are missing from your common keyboard or are not any longer available. So if it's in Unicode, we can add it over here. Even if it's not in Unicode, we can add it that as well. But only one character was that in Komi that we needed to create, and it's available over here. So the basic idea is that you can edit the text and make it match with the printed material. This is Pushkin's short story in Webb's language, and you can see in green that some of the words have been corrected. So this is how we can get the data out from the system, corrected data. The problem is that we have 200,000 pages to edit all in all in 17 different languages. And the researchers cannot really spend that much of time to do this kind of editing work. And they don't really want to do that because they are researchers. So they want to do research, not enhance the data that much. So we were thinking that could crowdsourcing be, like a gateway to have more data for researchers. And our fundraiser, Kone Foundation, just required this from us. So I started to think that, okay, maybe we could find some citizen scientists that could crowdsource this material for us in 17 different languages, maybe in Finland, maybe in Russia, and you know, trying to utilize the skills what they had to do this. I didn't want to outsource this work to India or China because it, you know, didn't feel like humanist enough for me. So, well, there is a problem, however, in traditional crowdsourcing. Quite often in crowdsourcing, the tasks are split into micro missions or tasks that are quite trivial, actually, that you just change, there's a picture and you type in that like in reCAPTCHA or something like that, and it doesn't really offer anything additional information. It's probably a good way to get quite a lot of results and quantitative results. But from linguistics point of view, this didn't seem like, you know, road to take because it didn't offer anything extra into this editing or proofreading procedures. So, and in my opinion, this kind of blind crowdsourcing is also lacking an important piece of cooperation, because there is no social, you know, network in that. People are just doing typing, pressing the button yes or no, and that's all. And I wanted to have this social approach here available. So I didn't invent this term, but I'm using it. I'm speaking about niche sourcing. That in niche sourcing, the skills of, for instance, native speakers could be used in a different way over here, and they could offer additional information for linguists, for instance. And they could provide qualitative results instead of quantitative results. And they can master quite complex tasks as well. This is really used in computing and such things, and I don't know how much that is done in humanities, but we are doing that over here, and that we actually try to utilize the skills of native speakers. For instance, we could assign a task for a native speaker that could precisely fill the gap in some certain area in for instance, in linguistics. A typical task would be that, you know, there is lack of words in anatomy in Hilmari. So we would digitize books in medicine and ask people to read them through and, for instance, tag and correct the words that are, for instance, human organs. That's something that, for instance, I cannot do, and you cannot do with Hilmari. You can just, you know, change the characters there and match them, but you cannot really get additional information out of that. What we did, for instance, with Ingrian or Ijora people, that is a small community living west of St. Petersburg, some 60 kilometers in south coast of Finnish Gulf. Around 300 native speakers are left, and I think this language is going to perish sooner or later. So, but however, there were eager people to do this kind of niche sourcing and give additional information for linguists and enhance the data. We made a clear decision that we won't any longer need grannies or grandfathers over here, but we want to have educated people that are familiar with computers and understand what they are doing. And it's easier to give tasks for them, and quite precise tasks as well. So they are educated, assimilated to Russian culture, they have good professions, and therefore they have spare time. They have also interest to learn the language of their grandparents, because they have already been drifting out from that language family or everyday use of that language. Most of them, they are living in St. Petersburg and working in Russian, but they want to do this kind of thing for their society. And this is a silly example, but what we did with these Ingrian people is that they first of all, they corrected the misspelled words, but then they tagged words that they wanted to add into online dictionary. This is a cactus, cacti, and a silly example because that is really traceable word, but for instance, they gave us a Russian translation of that word. So we can take the XML out and get the Ingrian word and Russian word, and now we can put them together into an online dictionary, and they can use the online dictionary now on their Sunday schools every fortnight that takes place in the village. So that is profitable for the whole language community itself. In traditional crowdsourcing, this sort of a outcome would have disappeared and it would have been dumped into a table of a researcher. So in my opinion, this kind of a niche sourcing thing is that there is some sort of an altruism or interplay involved over here, that we can really support, for instance, these endangered languages in this way, that we have solutions that are actually beneficial for them. Okay, this is part one, I think, yes. The power of social media comes here alive. It was not easy to find these sort of people who could do this kind of a niche sourcing thing. And, you know, especially when it comes to smaller languages like Ingrian or Webs, Karelian, it was really tedious work to find these kind of people who had spare time and capabilities to do these kind of things. First, we tried to gain audience or track people or find people through our web pages, in Twitter in English, in Facebook in English and Finnish, and in our project blog in English. Guess how much traffic we got from Russia? Not really much. And we didn't have a single person who would have been interested to do this kind of thing. So there was no interaction with the native speakers at all. So what we did in order to get kind of an audience that could contain these possible citizen scientists. First of all, we made a communication and marketing campaign, and we joined the Russian Facebook contact. I don't know whether you know that, but it's a replacement for a Facebook in Russia. And we started to deliver our messages in chat forums and linguistic forums and elsewhere. And the result was this. Up to May 2014, for instance, our collection was used only some 300, 700 times a month. And in May, we started to rally this thing in the contact in Russian. We delivered Russian messages out, and you can see the culmination point over there where the traffic becomes more active. This number, 7,788, is from this morning. So there's a huge difference between the numbers before and after. So we managed to deliver the message to Russian people in Russian, and they filtered the message out, and now we, bit by bit, managed to get into contacts with people who could do this sort of a work, because they started to ask, okay, you've been publishing this sort of things, so our libraries haven't done it. Can we do something for you? What have you done? And as we said that, yes, of course you can do. I can travel to Russia and explain the thing, and you could do a bit of work over here, and you would benefit out of it. So this was the key to success, that we actually managed to have Russian audience engaged with this project. The numbers weren't that high. You cannot really compare that with downloads of Shakespeare online or Old Bailey or something like that. But I think 20,000 downloads a month is, for this material, is rather good result. So social media was beneficial for us, and it was beneficial tool for those language communities who offered us editing work. But was it beneficial for researchers? What did they gain from here? And this is something new I've added onto my slides just yesterday morning. 2 weeks ago I was in Trondheim, and David Nicholas was speaking about reputational mechanism for scholars. And there's just fresh study on or report on that by European Commission Joint Research Centre. Go to the website and download it. It is really interesting because there is this emerging wave of social media / scholar reputation visible, and it is written in a report that this is now getting more active, that researchers are not, or reputation is not any longer built only by the quotations or citation indexes or bought publications and so forth, but also the activity in social media and spreading the message is going to be part of altmetrics. There is rather good keynote lecture by Nicholas. I will share the slides a bit later, but you can go to the website, and when you have spare time you can listen it or download the report. This could be something that we could have added into our project, that researchers would have gained scholar reputation out of this project, or library, I think. They are quite, since 5 years ago we pretty much had only Google Scholar or something like that, but now if you look at the platforms what we have for researchers available, I've taken this list from that report and it is huge already. There is altmetric services like Kudos and data repositories like GitHub and something like that. I think that all scholar activity in future is going to be measured through the activity in these platforms as well. So social media is not an exception or something that you just tweet or put a notification on Facebook that you have done research. For instance, this is not really my cup of tea, but I'm bringing this for you. I don't know how many of you have heard on Kudos, or are you using it? Basically, this is register that is offered by this company. It has been launched in April last year, and you pretty much make your visibility yourself over there. So you type in the research results like bibliographical data, and you give annotations or tags or how can I put keywords to your presentations and publications, and then you spread the message through Facebook, Twitter, blog post, email, and it is all counted. It is inside of the altmetrics, and I think this is the next future to some extent, because so at some point the institutions are getting more interested on this, and what is the reach of your research? And this is something that we researchers need to bear in mind, that there is audience outside of that typical Facebook, I ate a cup of porridge messaging, that you actually spread your results with the tools that are up and running and have been there already quite many years. So if this is taken from the report, and you can see that they take pretty much everything, all action what you've done in social media, and that is added onto altmetrics, and it gives you some sort of an index number, and then you're more reputational. Yeah, and your reputation has grown if your research is good enough to be reputational, of course. That's pretty much everything what I wanted to say. I will share the slides a bit later, but to conclude what I've said, that in our case, the English-speaking word or social media wasn't the road to take. So we needed to think a bit differently, and it was rather easy steps to take. We started to communicate in Russian, and then we gained the audience, and we benefited out of that, and maybe the language communities also benefited out of that. I don't know how the researchers, at the end of the day, they get data in and they have benefited out of that. How they could benefit out of this visibility in social media, that is the question. And how all this could increase our reputation. Thank you.